In this episode of Vinyl Haul, I've got a nice mix of thrash, speed, death, hard rock, and heavy metal, including the latest by a legendary band from the sludgy swamps of Florida. So all of that, coming up. First up is a reissue of the debut album from American thrash metal band Panic. This is Epidemic, originally released in 1991 by Metal Blade, but now reissued in 2022 by M Theory. So the record was produced by none other than the H-Team, that is Gary Holt and Rick Hunolt, currently and formerly of Exodus, respectively. In fact, you might get a bit of the Bay Area thrash vibe on this record at times, and I don't feel that's coincidental. They're from Seattle, but sound nothing like the other metal bands that came out of that scene, but yes, they are pulling a bit of the Bay Area. It's kind of undeniable. The vocal style here differentiates it a touch from most thrash bands of the time as well. Jeff Brames has a bit of gruff to his voice, but is also actually singing. Not quite Blitz from Overkill singing, but not shouty either. Maybe more Joey Belladonna meets Eric A.K., and I think that's as close as I can get, roughly. In any case, and perhaps unexpectedly, the vocal style works very well here. I'm also digging how audible the bass is, and that might be the point where I compare them to Overkill. Bass tone is similar to Dee Dee Verney's, which I like a lot. I am a Verney fan, in case you don't know that. My only gripe might be that the snare drum is a little high in the mix, but not annoyingly so, but I thought I'd mention it. Anyways, vinyl variant on this one is 1 LP Outbreak Green. It is limited to 300 copies. We also have an inner sleeve. Here, it's actually a 4-page booklet. Has lyrics, liner notes, and an interview that's basically a bio of the band. There's the other side with more lyrics and more credits. There you go. Favorites on this one definitely have a few, as always. They are Black Feather Shake, High Strung, Morbid Curiosities, and Devil's Night Out. Speaking of the first, there was a video for the track Black Feather Shake. It seems the only copy I could find is at a channel called Long Live Thrash, and the quality is pretty subpar, but it's a great track and it's worth checking out. I should also mention the cover song here. It's I Stole Your Love, originally done by Kiss. As I mentioned in a previous video, it's okay at best, but it does break the flow of the record. We do get solos from Holt and Hunolt here, as well as some guest co-vocals from Exodus singer Steve Zusa, but it doesn't elevate the track beyond just fine. But give it a spin. I don't know, maybe you'll feel differently. The final track here, Pile of Bones, is kind of bluesy, I would say. A little goofy at times, but also not unexpected in early 90s thrash. Some of that got a little bit experimental. I'm definitely thinking Wrathchild America here to some degree. Still very listenable, though. Also, I'd say this is a good opportunity to snag the record on vinyl, as it hadn't been pressed to the format since the Music for Nations vinyl version, back in 1991, which is the only other official vinyl release. So after a second album in 1993, Panic did break up the following year, despite the fact that they were considered a promising newcomer band in the early 90s by both Headbangers Ball and the Hard and Heavy home video series. Pretty sad, because I feel that if you dig some of the tighter, more technical playing of the Bay Area thrash bands of this specific era, along with maybe some Annihilator-style guitar melodies and some genuine heaviness throughout, then you might dig Panic's debut album. And I did want to show some inserts here, too, that I got with the record. Almost forgot. Get a 4-page from M Theory. That's the record label of some of their releases here. A little bit on the back there as well. And some ads for some of their albums. There's Santa Cruz. There's another one there for you. Also have some releases there. And there. And look, one more. How about that? And the back. So yeah, M Theory, great label. You should definitely be checking them out. But you know what? Check out Panic 2 while you're at it. They're pretty good. Next is the second studio album from American crossover thrash band High Command. This is Eclipse of the Dual Moons, released in 2022 by Southern Lord Recordings. So right away you can hear the early Metallica and early Slayer influences here, but there's definitely a lot more than that going on, for sure. There's certainly a wealth of modern crossover riffing interspersed with very headbang-worthy moments, and I've seen this band live and the pits are insane during their shows, as it should be. I should also mention the album's lyrical content because it's definitely not the predictable crossover stuff here. And I'll admit a bias, I'm not a fan of political or socially conscious topics in my metal. I mean, I'll put up with them from bands I otherwise dig musically, but I'll also gravitate more to the bands that steer away from that. Thankfully, High Command takes that different route by singing about swords and sorcery and other fun fantasy stuff. Typically, you get these topics much more often in power metal, but it really does work in a more thrash environment, giving the lyrics that extra punch. You might be thinking Manowar at this point, though I'd say the quality of lyric writing here is far, far better. This record is also noticeably more ambitious than their debut album, which is already a killer record. Eclipse has some real variety throughout, which is refreshing for a thrash album, as some bands of the genre tend to set on one fast pace and monotonously stick to it. I think we all know that. Definitely not the case here. Again, thankfully. There are certainly speedy parts, but they're also broken up with the occasional melodic, acoustic, or groove passages. Definitely great. Vinyl variant on this one is 1 LP steel vinyl. It is limited to 500 copies. We also get an insert with full lyrics and a nice little map to take you on your own musical adventure. Of course, I have some favorites as well. We should talk about Imposing Hammers of Cold Sorcery, great title. Also Fortified by Bloodshed and Chamber of Agony. There's also the 12-minute epic closing track Spires of Sakartha. Lots of change-ups that keep the song interesting, and I'm betting that if they do this one live, it would hold people's attention, notably for a lot of the guitar work. Also really dug the acoustic outro for the track, along with the sounds of strings and distant bells. Totally classy, guys. And if you're wanting to hear some of this record, there are audio tracks available for Siege Warfare, as well as Imposing Hammers of Cold Sorcery. Both of those can be checked out at the Southern Lord YouTube channel. So, we got a new High Command album that shows some evolution from the last record without losing any sort of their aggression or those opportunities to furiously headbang. This is undeniably top shelf crossover thrash, and you should already be spinning this record. It's good. Next up is a reissue of a compilation from American glam metal band LA Guns. This is Hollywood Raw, the original sessions, originally released in 2004, but now reissued to vinyl in 2023 by Cleopatra Records. So, as you can imagine, these are demo sessions from the period of the band following the departure of one Axl Rose, who went on to form another band you might be familiar with. About 2/3 of the record are early versions of tracks later appearing in studio form on LA Guns' 1988 self-titled debut album, with the other third being previously unreleased tracks, if even released at all outside of this collection. Sound quality varies here and there, in part because these tracks were recorded in different studios around Hollywood and the San Bernardino Valley, but as far as demos go, it is very listenable. It is also really fun to hear some of the earlier versions of very familiar songs, whether differing riffs or completely different lyrics. Nothing to Lose and Sex Action come to mind. Some of the other songs have very little change to them though, such as Bitch Is Back and Electric Gypsy. Overall, you get a real sense of where they were in terms of songwriting and tightening things up, as you are going to hear some infrequent mistakes, notably in Phil needing to tighten up his vocal delivery a little bit. For the most part, though, he does sound pretty good. He just has some vocal cracks going on every so often. Again, these aren't fully realized studio-level versions of these songs, so know that going in. Final variant for this one is 1 LP Splatter. It has no release numbers currently available, but it is a lovely variant. We also get inner sleeve here, picture of the band, some flyers there as well. So get another shot of the band along with some liner notes. As for favorite tracks on this one, definitely Bitches Back. It's a great song, studio or demo. But also dig Midnight Alibi and Shoot for Thrills. Unfortunately, missing from the first album here are No Mercy, Cry No More, and Down in the City. Likely those were written later on, or they were demo versions, but they simply just didn't make this to the collection for some reason or another. I tell you though, I was definitely a huge fan of their debut album when it came out. I was in a band rather similar to them at the time, and we all played the crap out of this record. Whether at parties or during road trips to Boston, hit the metal clubs and pick up girls. Good times. Anyways, I'm thinking if you dug that first record just as much as I did, you're definitely going to dig these demo tracks as well. Next is a compilation of 2 albums released from British heavy metal legends Iron Maiden. This is The Number of the Beast over Hammersmith, released in 2022 by Parlophone. So, you're likely familiar with The Number of the Beast. It was a huge album for them and is a bona fide classic. However, Beast over Hammersmith, the live album that's included in this set, might be a little less familiar to some of you. It was originally part of the Eddie's Archive CD box set. It was released in 2002, and it's a live show recording from their Beast on the Road tour back in 1982. The show actually predates the release of the Number of the Beast album by 2 days, so I'm guessing it must have been amazingly cool for concert goers to hear that material at least a little bit early. With its inclusion in this set, it's now available for the first time on the vinyl format, which is especially great for us folks who didn't pick up Eddie's Archives when it came out or simply want the concert on vinyl. Speaking of the vinyl, it is on 3LP Classic Black. This is the Number of the Beast record. The other 2 have the same layout on the disc labels, except they're in yellow. Also, we've got some inner sleeves here. Very familiar artwork you might remember from the Number of the Beast proper. Great shot of the band here. As for Beast over Hammersmith, disc 2's label or inner sleeve looks a whole lot like that on one side and like that on the other. How about that? And of course, record 3, get the nice little logo there, a nice little shot of Eddie, and some credits. There's the band you're familiar with, and all of that. This did come in a trifold. I'll show you first opened up as a 2-piece, then as a 3-piece, and then you've already seen that one, haven't you? There it is again. Anyways, the album also comes, as you saw, in a 3-panel gatefold that had liner notes from bassist Steve Harris about where the band was at the time, the recording of The Number of the Beast, playing at Hammersmith, and all of that. It is a cool read. I would highly recommend that you don't skip it. As for favorites from the studio side of the record, they are Invaders, The Number of the Beast, and Hallowed Be Thy Name. And favorites from the live side are Run to the Hills, The Number of the Beast, Killers, and Phantom of the Opera. Also really love hearing Bruce singing Drifter, despite the dumb call and response segment, and I admit I hate call and response segments at live shows. I've just grown to really hate them over the decades. That's just me though. Anyways, definitely put Drifter on my favorites list as well. Too cool. I did find it curious that Children of the Damned made it so early in the live set at track 4. I did check out the set list online, and the songs are all in the right order as they were played live. So it appeared track 4. I dig the song, but it's a little slow, and I guess I would have put it on the back end of the performance. It sounds like a complaint, but it really isn't one. But I guess I would have shoved this one towards the end, right before the last few bangers. I think flow-wise, it would have made a lot more sense that way. We should also talk about the inclusion of the track Total Eclipse on the studio record here, mainly because it replaces Gangland on the B-side. Not sure how I feel about that change, since I do prefer Gangland, and overall that's the track listing I'm used to. I mean, Total Eclipse is decent enough, but for me, it just doesn't compare to Gangland. And I'm aware that Steve Harris totally disagrees with me, which is fine. Ultimately, it's not a big deal, as I do have the original track order version of this album, so I can listen to that for the most part, and pull this version out when the mood strikes me, whenever that is. Of course, the Number of the Beast album had music videos upon its release back when it was brand new, namely the title track as well as Run to the Hills. You should check both of those out at the Iron Maiden YouTube channel. So although it's nice to have the Number of the Beast album in this set as a companion, I really bought it for the live album. And while Beast over Hammersmith is no Live After Death, it's still a great set, it's well produced, and I'm happy to have a killer show from this particular tour. That, and you can really hear the audience on this one, and hoo boy are they psyched about this concert. As I would be if I was there. I'd probably be 13 or 14 at the time. Really dig the slow crowd claps during the intros of Hallowed Be Thy Name, as well as the cheers to Bruce's super long note he hits in Sanctuary, for a couple examples. Overall, the audience really adds to the enjoyment of this record for me, and I probably said it before, with certain live albums, I sound like a broken, if you will, record on that one. Anyways, yeah, even if you have the Number of the Beast, you might want to pick this up for the 2 LP live show on vinyl. Next up is the 5th studio album from American speed metal band Seax. This is Speed Inferno, released in 2022 by Diabolic Might Records. So Seax is back with their fast and banging speed metal riffs, soaring vocals, and requisite gang choruses. Also digging the production here, which brings everyone up to where they should be. It's definitely a lot to love here. I should point out the new guitar player. He is Fife Sampson. He's up Seax's game a noticeable notch or two and trades off well with Hal's equally blistering riffs. The pair are the primary strength of this album. I think that's somewhat undeniable, though. To be fair, Carmine's vocals have also never sounded better than on this album. From aggressive shouts to completely over-the-top high notes. I'm even catching scant moments of more melodic parts from Carmine in tracks such as Shock Combat as well as Rising Evil. Good stuff. Also, some of the bass guitar runs throughout the album are fantastic, albeit a little low in the mix for my liking. Overall, I'm getting a bit more variety in the songwriting here and there, which is nice to hear, especially from Seax. As for the vinyl variant, it is classic black. It is limited to 500 copies. There you go. Also, lyric sheet with lyrics, as should be on a lyric sheet. Also, a really fantastic photograph of the band. We also have some inserts from Diabolic Might Records. Got a nice little listing of some of their offerings there and there. As well as a little card that does much the same. On the back as well. There it is. As for favorites here, definitely Radiation Overload, as well as Barbarians of Doom, and especially Return to the Steel. Would love to see the band do a music video for that last track. It is definitely a strong one. No music videos for this release, but you can check out the complete album at the Nwatham Full Albums YouTube channel. That's NWOTHM Full Albums. So, if you've not heard Seax before and you're a fan of classic Exciter or Abattoir or Razor, you need to check into this band, and in particular, this album, which is definitely their best one yet. No arguments there. And if you're only familiar with their first couple of albums, you really should revisit the band because this is a vast improvement from those early days. In any case, check it out. Next is the 11th studio album from American death metal band Obituary. This is Dying of Everything, released in 2023 by Relapse Records. So, 6 years since the release of their self-titled album back in 2017. An overall pretty great record, which means my expectations are already set a little higher for this one than some of their less interesting mid-career records, to put it mildly. Speaking of their career in general, it's fair to say that Obituary is often known for establishing a song's riff and then writing it for the long haul, sometimes to the track's detriment. We have heard more variety, at least as far back as the self-titled record, and you will have a bit more of that variety here as well, thankfully. But you'll also get the odd-end riff that might seem to overstay its welcome at times too. Just so you know. Given that there are some catchy, heavy riffs here with some occasional groove, vocals are certainly up to par with some of the better Obituary releases, as are the melodic leads peppered throughout. In fact, the lead work certainly elevates the tracks quite a bit. So, good job, Kenny. Anyways, vinyl variant for this one is Gold Nugget. It is limited to 1,000 copies and is considered a Relapse.com exclusive. There's the other side for you. Not much else in the jacket. It's kind of a bare bones release, but take a look at the gatefold there. Gorgeous. As for favorites, definitely Barely Alive, the album opener, killer opener. Also My Will to Live, as well as Weaponize the Hate. I'm also digging the insanely sludgy album ender, Be Warned, with its bendy guitar notes and atmospheric vocals. It is definitely an effective way to end this album. As for music videos, there is one for the track The Wrong Time, also a lyric video from My Will to Live, and audio tracks for Dying of Everything and Barely Alive. You can check out all those at the Relapse Records YouTube channel. So, an overall satisfying record that might not be as great as the album before it, but certainly holds its own. Granted, you know going into an Obituary album that you're likely to not get something innovative or experimental or cutting edge. With that in mind, it's a good record for Obituary fans and fans of thrashy old school death metal in general. Gotta say, I'm definitely gonna be spinning this one more, for sure. So right away, my apologies for not having episodes of Vinyl Haul for either January or February. Through a combination of lack of time from moving into another apartment and the king's ransom of cash it took to do that, it just wasn't feasible to buy a whole lot of vinyl. But I'm settled in now with a new place and the credit card debt is more or less coming down. So we should be back to some sort of regular schedule with shows at this point. Of course, as I always say, let me know in the comments which of these albums and bands you like, which ones you don't like. Also, music suggestions are hugely important. You should tell me what you're listening to now as well. Maybe you're excited about a new band, you want to tell me about that, or anything else along those lines. Maybe I just need to hear this certain album that you're really psyched about. Let me know that and anything else relevant in the comments below. And if introductions are in order, my name is Matt. This is the Accusation Network, where each and every week I do videos on metal vinyl collecting. I also do classic and modern metal in general. If you like the sound of that, you should definitely give this video a like, share this video with some of your friends, and you know what? Maybe subscribe to this channel as well. Would love to have you on board. Anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.